Hello, Chicago. Welcome on in to the latest episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sport. The Bears get the win in week one. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't something to write home about, certainly, but it counts. All the same, it counts. That's the important thing. Better than one of the other teams in the division, we'll put it that way. We will break down the game, react to the victory. We'll also react to some of the news that's been coming through the day of some of the things that happened in the game. And then there is some injury updates tonight as well that went on yesterday. So we'll get everybody caught up on the latest there. The Bears weren't the only team to win yesterday. In fact, all four of the major teams won. The Bears, the Cubs, the White Sox, and the Sky. How much does it really mean at this point, though? We'll discuss, especially with the Cubs and where they're at in the season as they are out in LA getting ready to start a 3-game series there. And then in the college ranks, a huge upset with the Northern Illinois Huskies. We will give our props to that game as well. All that more stuff right now on Chi-Town Weekly. Let's go. And hello, everyone. Once again, welcome in. I am your host, Adam Karnick. So glad that you are here with us for the latest episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Sorry for the little tardy start to the show. I walked in the door maybe 10 minutes ago. So sorry that the show is starting a little tardy, but we will have some fun nonetheless. It's a victory Monday for the Bears. Lots to get to, lots to go through. 24-17 over the Tennessee Titans. The Bears are above 500 for the first time in 2 years. Lots to celebrate, lots to go through there, which we will. But before we get any further, we do want to acknowledge our sponsors here at the show as well. And we'll take a moment right now to do just that. Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back on into the show. I am your host, Adam Karnick. So glad that you are here with us. Be sure, again, to check out all of our sponsors. Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, and then, of course, this show would not be possible without the platform that is IE Sports Radio. So be sure to check each and every one of them out later on after the show. It's a Victory Monday. It is a Victory Monday. We need to celebrate that. There have been far too few of those the last couple of years that I don't care how it got here. We are going to celebrate today. And you can follow along this show. This show, of course, is available for you on all the social media platforms. We are on Twitter at IESRC, or you can follow along with me personally. I am at Adam_Karnick. You can also learn a little bit more, if you are so inclined, you can learn a little bit more about me and the show by heading over to iesportsradio.com/Chi-Town Weekly. You can also access the most recent episodes there, as well as just learn a little bit about me and things like that. Welcome everybody in that is watching live, whether this is on YouTube or Twitter or Instagram. Thank you all for being here. Taryn Rodriguez, Jen B, Patty Bax, Davidson Crooks. Davidson, of course, is our resident Titans fan. So he's, of course, a little bit more upset than everybody else about it. Yeah. Unfortunately, Davidson, you're not wrong with your take there. The Titans did indeed choke, a 17-point lead with 33 minutes roughly left to play in the game. Yeah, that's a choke job. That's a choke job. It's one of the things that I remember from years past when the Bears have been so critically dependent upon not just the defense stopping people, but also the defense scoring and the special teams providing all the points. which I didn't realize. I knew that there were some former Bears at the game yesterday, Jerry Azuma, Peanut Tillman, and Lance Briggs. It was very nice of the Bears to bring Lovie Smith back to coach the game yesterday, because that's what that was. That was a Lovie Smith special yesterday. The offense's job was to simply get out of the way, and the defense and special teams handled all of the scoring, all of the highlight reel plays, all of the important stuff was all handled by the defense and special teams yesterday. That made Lovie Smith so proud. You know, that was circa 2006 Bears all over the place. But I was reminded watching that game yesterday that the only way that you win with your defense doing that is it requires the other team to make colossal mistakes. You know, and we saw that from the Titans. They were making massive mistakes. Will Levis, 2 second half turnovers there, the fumble, and then that terrible interception that Tyreek Stevenson then returned the distance for the score. You know, as great as it is to have an opportunistic defense and a terrific special teams unit, it more often than not, it requires something to go wrong on the other side. And fortunately for the Bears yesterday, it worked out in their favor, but we've seen it in years past where, you know, you can have a terrific defense and hold the other team to 14 points, but if all you can do is put up 6, it just doesn't matter. Caleb yesterday was, that was as rough of a debut at quarterback as I think. It's not the roughest we've seen. I was trying to decide yesterday after the game which was the rougher debut, the one that Caleb had yesterday where he didn't even have 100 yards passing and failed to complete half of his throws, or the one that Justin Fields had 3 years ago in Cleveland. And I think ultimately the one that Justin Fields had was worse. And here's why. First of all, the Bears lost the game, you know, in brutal fashion. They got absolutely torched by the Cleveland Browns in that game. Here, the Bears at least won. But also, as rough as that was offensively, you found some bright spots. There were a few spots where it was, well, at least they've got this. At least they've got that. You know, you had one yesterday where the incomplete pass to Keenan Allen in the end zone. All right, it doesn't amount to anything. It goes down as an incompletion, but that was a terrific throw from Caleb Williams. Keenan Allen should have had that. You know, that was as on the money of a throw as you're going to have. And Keenan Allen's just, you got to catch that one. You had the third down run from Caleb Williams to keep a drive alive, where it was nobody got open. He worked through his progression, and then he said, you know what? I'm getting out of here. I see a way that I can get a first down. I'm going to go take it. And he did. And it wound up, the drive ultimately resulted in a field goal. So there were some, and then the biggest thing that happened was one of a bunch of things, just a number another in a group of things that didn't happen. They didn't complete a bunch of passes. They didn't have any big chunk plays. The biggest play of the day was a 20-yard run by DeAndre Swift in the fourth quarter. That was the longest play from scrimmage that they had all day long. You didn't have any offensive touchdowns. You didn't have any offensive momentum or continuity throughout the game. But you also didn't have any offensive turnovers. And that is just as big as all the other things that didn't happen yesterday. Obviously, you're not going to win very many games like they did yesterday. There's only select teams that you're going to beat by playing the game that way. The Taryn Rodriguez getting us caught up in everything happening in the volleyball world as well. Be sure to stick around. Taryn Rodriguez has set point tonight, right after us. So be sure to catch that out. He is covering Northwestern's women's team tonight. So be sure to check that out. The lack of turnovers by the offense, that's not insignificant from Caleb for everything that went wrong yesterday. And it was a lot. There was a lot of things went wrong yesterday. He didn't turn the ball over. And that's not something to be taken lightly. Some of it was luck, absolutely. He had several passes that got batted up in the air and ultimately landed incomplete. He had another one that was batted up in the air and somehow into the waiting arms of Rome Odunze. That turned into Rome's first and only catch of the game. His first NFL catch was a pinball shot off of a defender's hands. That'll be a fun one to relive someday. But ultimately, you didn't have the back-breaking, oh my gosh, you can't have that in that spot mistake that just totally killed you. The closest one was, of course, the 19-yard sack that took them out of field goal range on the second drive. You had 1st and 10 at the Tennessee 25, and you ultimately had to punt because your rookie quarterback took a 20-yard sack. Now, that sack also came on 1st down. You had a couple of plays to at least get yourself back to the 30 and get into field goal range, but that's another thing. The offensive line was a mess yesterday, and we've talked about them a lot. I wouldn't expect any major changes by next week, but I would not. My solution to help the offensive line, first of all, as soon as he's healthy, I would get Ryan Bates into center. And then I would kick Tevin Jenkins over to right guard. And I'd put Bill Murray or somebody else at left guard. And I'd get Nate Davis out of there. Those would be my solutions for the offensive line. Get Ryan Bates in at center and get Nate Davis just somewhere, anywhere. I would also just limit Velus Jones on the field as much as possible. I would never put him back for a kickoff ever again. He has had every opportunity in the book and just continues to be a massive liability at kick returns. You cannot use him in that way. You just can't. You just absolutely cannot use him for any kind of kick returns. You can't trust him as a wide receiver. I give him 3 plays. I'd be just fine. Frankly, I'd be just fine with cutting him. Frankly, just flat out cut Velus Jones. He's had every opportunity in the book at this point, but I know they won't do that. And in part, they won't do that because of the breaking news tonight via Adam Schefter. Rome Odunze is now officially, as I get the banner up here, Rome Odunze is officially week to week. He sprained his MCL in that game yesterday, and he is now per Matt Eberflus, per sources with the Bears, Odunze is considered week to week with an MCL sprain. Hopefully it's not as serious as what Jordan Love just had with the Packers against the Eagles on Friday night, where they're saying he's 3-4 weeks minimum before he's back. The Bears right now, it's being labeled as week to week. So we'll see what that means, but I would imagine that almost certainly means that he will miss this Sunday's game against the Texans. So you'll have to do something with, you're now short at wide receiver. You'll probably have to have Velus Jones out there in some capacity, but I would get Tyler Scott activated. I was very surprised that Scott wasn't in the lineup yesterday, that he wasn't active yesterday for the Bears. I would have liked to have seen him in some capacity. And all right, you'll have Velus Jones active, but man, don't use him. Just use him with extreme caution. Just extreme caution. Really limit the opportunities he has to damage you, with that. But that's the big breaking news as of about an hour and a half ago from Adam Schefter, that Rome Odunze is officially week to week for the Bears. I would expect that means he doesn't play against Houston, but we'll see how long then he'd be out. So they got week one under their belts. They got a win. The Bears are over 500 for the first time in 2 years since they were 2-1 back in Eberflus's first season. Ironically enough, that was also by beating the Houston Texans. They now have the Houston Texans this week. Obviously, you can't have a performance like you had yesterday against Houston. But as crazy as this sounds, some of what we'll see I wouldn't be surprised if we see a better overall performance from Caleb and the offense in week 2 as opposed to week 1. And here's why. The Titans defensive coordinator yesterday is brand new. Not only do they have a new head coach, they have a brand new defensive coordinator. Yesterday was the first game where he ever called the plays for the defense in a meaningful football game. So you didn't have tape. You didn't have other experiences to go off of when making a game plan. So the Bears kind of had to do some more guessing than they normally would when putting together the game plan for yesterday. Houston's defense is absolutely better than Tennessee's defense, but it's also more of a known commodity than the Tennessee defense. I was trying to come up with a good analogy for this morning on my drive into work. And here's what I was able to basically workshop. And I don't think it's perfect, but most analogies aren't. Yesterday's test was high school level algebra, but while it wasn't exactly a pop quiz, you didn't really have time to study for it. You didn't really have a means for studying for it. This week's test, it's college level algebra, but at least you have time and the means to prep for it. You know what questions are likely to be on the test. It's still harder. There's still plenty of opportunities to trip you up, but at least you have an idea of what's going to be a better idea of what's going to be on the test than what you had this previous week. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that, we should expect 350 yards and 5 touchdowns and just the most amazing game ever from Caleb on Sunday. That's not at all what I'm saying. It might very well be 18 of 30, for 180 yards. But I wouldn't be surprised if it looks better than what we saw a week ago. If for no other reason than more of the strength of Houston's defense is more on the edge than in the middle. On the edges, the Bears tackles at least held their own yesterday. Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, they at least held their own yesterday. Unlike all four really of the interior linemen of the Bears yesterday as that went on. All right, we are going to take for ourselves a quick break. The Bears were not the only teams to get the win yesterday. The Cubs, the White Sox, and the Sky all celebrated victories on Sunday, but I want to focus specifically on the Cubs. We will talk Cubs baseball next. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you at the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pulp culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick back with you here for another 20 minutes or so of the show here tonight. Talked obviously a lot of Bears there in the first half of the show as they won their week 1 game for the first time in 2 years. They are over 500 for the first time now, also in 2 years. Patty Bax jumping into the chat room. She's excited. Her Bill. I know the Bills aren't in Chicago, but she's also excited over their big victory. Yeah, the AFC East had a huge week one. If the Jets somehow pull off the upset tonight, the entire AFC East will have started off 1-0. That'll be exciting. Now, Patty, I'm sure you were at the game yesterday, so you'll have much better insight into the Bills' victory from yesterday than I had of the Bears game yesterday. I was watching at home, but also trying to keep my my daughter as entertained as possible as I was keeping an eye on the game and spending some time with her. So wanted to jump in now. It was a big day yesterday for all of Chicago sports because, hey, all four of the teams won yesterday. The Bears, the Cubs, the White Sox even got a win yesterday, and the Sky beat the Dallas Wings yesterday. So a big victory Sunday all the way around for the city of Chicago yesterday. Lots of things to go over and enjoy. But I wanted to focus specifically on the Cubs from yesterday. They beat the Yankees 2-1 in the series finale. But it was a rough week for the Cubs last week. They dropped 4 out of 6, 2 of 3 to the Pirates and 2 of 3 to the Yankees. I want to start off first of all by saying I appreciate the entertainment that is a good pitcher, and I understand that, it makes for great television, but man, I hope that the Cubs miss Paul Skeens at least one time next season. Every single time this year the Cubs played the Pirates, they had to face Paul Skeens at some point in the series. My goodness. Ay. And that kid is good. Man, that kid is good. They faced him again last week, and Skeens mopped the floor with them in that game. Man, that young man is something else for the Pirates. So I hope that, in the interest of fairness, I hope that there's at least one series next season where the Cubs face the Pirates and they somehow miss Paul Skeens in the rotation. That would be, frankly, the Cubs are owed that at this point. I feel like they're owed that anymore at this point. They need to miss him somehow. But they dropped 2 out of 3 to the Pirates. Now they did have the combined no-hitter in there, so there was reason to celebrate last week. That was an amazing performance. Shota Imanaga going the first 7, and then the bullpen picking up the final 2 innings and no-hitting the Pittsburgh Pirates. The first time that the Cubs threw a no-hitter at Wrigley Field in over 50 years. That was cool Wednesday night. That was very cool to see happen and to watch happen. But then the off day Thursday, the Yankees come into town and they dropped 2 out of 3 to the Yankees, and they scored all of 2 runs in the entire series, and both of them came yesterday. To get completely shut out against the Yankees in the first 2 games. And I'm reminding myself here before I say this, because I'm 99% sure that what I'm about to say is correct, but I want to double check it. Yes. In 26 offense, in a grand total of 26 offensive innings against the Yankees this weekend, the Cubs were shut out in 25 of them. They scored 2 runs in the first inning yesterday, and that was it. Isaac Paredes, a 2-run single in the first inning, and that was it for the offense. Cubs managed just 3 hits yesterday. They only managed about 8 hits for the entire series against the Yankees. Is that Yankees pitching staff just was giving the Cubs fits all series long. Yeah, all of 8 hits in the 3 games for the Cubs. And so now the Cubs enter play today. They're out west. They're facing the Dodgers. And at this point, the Cubs are 5 games out of the wild card race, of the final wild card spot. And they have both the Braves and the Mets who are in a tie for that final wild card spot. They would have to jump both of them. And with only 19 games left to play, I asked the question here for the segment, are the Cubs done? I have to answer this with a yes. They are done. It's simply too much to try and overcome at this point in the season. They did a terrific job at the end of August to crawl back into it, to climb and claw and force their way back into relevancy. And then the calendar turned over to September and the bats went cold again. And that's been a huge part of the issue for the Cubs a lot of this season, is they just can't get consistent offense. They are done, unfortunately, to me. I know that they still have a very favorable schedule left, this series against the Dodgers notwithstanding. You know, you've got 3 against the Dodgers, then you've got 3 in Denver against the Rockies. They're already eliminated. They have nothing to play for. Then you're home against the A's. You've got the A's, you have the Nationals, the Phillies, and the Reds left on the calendar after this series with the Dodgers. Obviously, that series with the Phillies, that's not going to be an easy one. That's going to be a problem. But there's just too much ground to make up. 5 games back with only 19 to play. You know, this is where an old football adage can actually be kind of helpful and relevant in a baseball setting. The old adage of, if you ever wind up with a 3-game lead in the NFL, that's usually good enough to get the job done. You know, it's a 3-game lead is awfully hard to overcome. A 5-game lead with 19 games left to play, that's a fairly safe lead for the Braves and the Mets. I know they've got some tough games ahead. I don't trust the Cubs enough to see them take advantage and somehow wind up in a wild card spot. So unfortunately, I think this last week was the official death knell of the 2024 Cubs. We can stick a fork in them. They are done. All right, we are going to take one more break, and then I want to do a little bit of a whip around. I want to acknowledge some of the other things that were going on sports-wise in the city, including a huge upset over one state over in Northwest Indiana on Saturday afternoon. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back right after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And be sure to check out Taryn Rodriguez and Set Point right after us here on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports. Until then, though, we got about 10 minutes or so left in our show. Adam Karnick here with Chi-Town Weekly, with just a little bit left to go here for you as we wrap up a Victory Monday, week 1 of the NFL season underway. The Bears. We talked about the Bears beating the Titans. We talked about the Cubs ultimately getting the win yesterday over the Yankees, but I think it's at this point, it is too little too late. The White Sox also pulled off a surprise win over the Boston Red Sox yesterday. They are trying as hard as they possibly can to get to 40 wins. I don't think they're going to make it, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. They are off tonight. They're getting ready to host the Guardians for a quick 2-game series this week before another off day Thursday, and then hosting the Oakland A's this weekend. So, yeah, maybe they could get a win in there somewhere, somehow, maybe. I don't think they're getting to 40 though, but we'll see what it is. And then also yesterday, a big win for the Chicago Sky over the Dallas Wings, 92-77. Now, this was a little bit of a bittersweet victory for the Sky, as we found out on Saturday, very suddenly, very surprisingly, that Angel Reese is done for the season. Angel announced on Twitter that her season was done. She went into a lot of emotion, a lot of thank you, a lot of this isn't the end, but a beginning kind of things on the post, but didn't really necessarily explain what the injury was all about, what had happened. She then went on a little later and kind of went back and explained she's broken her wrist. She has a crack in one of the bones in her wrist. She's scheduled to have surgery tomorrow, and that's why her season is done. Late last night, she posted a video to TikTok talking about it. She she was told she didn't have to have surgery. She elected to have it done because the risks of not having the procedure done, it could jeopardize her entire career. So with her career in front of her, she chose to make what is realistically the right move and have the surgery, get it taken care of. She and I have something ever so slightly in common. I actually experienced a very similar injury to what she described in the video and what she talked about, where it was in my left wrist, just a bone in here where it's, you go backwards on a gym floor and you just land on it in just the right way. And that's basically what she described having happened to her, in that just landed on it in just the right way to crack a bone. And so she's looking at probably a 4 to 6 week recovery period for that. And she'll take it from there. So unfortunately, Angel Reese's season is done, but the Sky were able to rally and get the victory last night over Dallas. So that leaves the Sky, as we're sitting here now, overall, they still do occupy the 8th and final playoff spot in the WNBA. They're holding on to it by a thread. Every other spot has been clinched at this point. That the 1 through 7 spots, we are all clinched. We know that those teams at the very least are going to be in the playoffs. The Sky, the Atlanta Dream, the Washington Mystics are still alive. Dallas, that loss last night to Chicago, effectively ended any chance that they have. So the Sky have some huge games coming up. They play they host Washington on Wednesday night. That's one they've got to have. Absolutely have to have that one, because not only is it a win, it's a loss for Washington. Can put them 3 games in front of the Washington Mystics with only 4 or so games left be 4 games left for both teams. So a critical one there coming up on Wednesday for the Sky. Then they play Minnesota. That's going to be a tough one. They do play Phoenix again. That's a team that they just don't match up well against. That could be a very tough one on Sunday. And then the other huge one is a week from tomorrow, hosting Atlanta going to Atlanta before finishing out the season in Connecticut against the Sun. We'll see. We'll check in some more next week on where the Sky are at. But as they sit here right now, they are ever so carefully holding on to the 8th and final spot in the WNBA playoffs. We will see. Hopefully they're able to hang on to it. Hopefully they're able to make a little bit of a postseason, able to at least make an appearance in the postseason, because it sure doesn't look like either of the baseball teams are going to give us anything. And God knows nothing good will come from the Bulls this season. We do have one other bit to celebrate, though, on this Victory Monday show, and that is Northern Illinois, the Huskies, going into South Bend and beating the Fighting Irish in Notre Dame's home opener. Notre Dame will almost certainly be out of the top 10 after that one. And give the Huskies credit. They were trailing in the 4th quarter before completing the comeback. So congratulations to the Huskies. Congratulations to Coach and all of his crew up there at Northern Illinois. That is the first victory over a top 10 opponent in school history. That is easily the biggest win over a ranked opponent in close to 20 years. Northern Illinois upset Alabama at one point, but a huge win for the program for Northern Illinois, 16-14 in South Bend, Indiana over the weekend. Congratulations to them for that. The Huskies, they get an extra week to celebrate. They are off this week and then will take on Buffalo to start the MAC schedule here in a couple of weeks. So congratulations to Northern Illinois, a terrific win there. I am sure that Taryn and Larry will have a lot of fun going over that one on 3 and Out College Edition this weekend and basking in that one a little bit for the team. So congratulations to the Huskies as well on that victory. That is going to do it for our show this week. Huge shout out and thank you, of course, to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. You can find them on Instagram at Planet Jerky or head to their website, planetjerky.net, to place your order. Free shipping on all orders of $50 or above. Mention that you were made aware of them by this show, and you might even get a free gift sent your way as well. Thank you also to Seal the Deal Wax Seals for sponsoring the show as well. You find them on Instagram at SealTheDeal_Wax Seals. Place your orders by going to iesportsradio.com/SealTheDeal_Wax-Seals. And of course, IE Sports Radio is available for you on all the major social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube at IE Sports Radio. You can also find all of the shows later on as podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, CastBox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, and Gio7. Thank you to Larry B., the czar and overlord of all things IE Sports Radio, for all the hard work you do behind the scenes. Good sir, it does not go unnoticed, nor is it unappreciated. Thank you to everybody that hung out in the chat room with us tonight. Taryn Rodriguez, Patty Bax, Davidson Crooks, and Jen B. Thank you to everybody there. Finally, thank you for listening to the show, whether it was live tonight over YouTube or Twitter or Instagram, or if you caught it later on in the week as a podcast. Thank you for making this show part of your weekly routine. I greatly appreciate it. Next week, of course, we will be breaking down the Bears Week 2 game in Houston. Hopefully we'll have another victory Monday. I have my doubts for this one, though. I think it's going to be a little too tough for where the Bears are at right now. We will also check in on the Chicago Sky, see if they are still alive in the postseason race, and we'll see what other stories come our way. Until then, we'll see you next week.